We've only got 2 games left of the FNCS Europe Major 2 Grand Finals, guys. I'm not going to get sad about it right now. I'm just going to savor the moment because that could have been a highly impactful game for Shark and Teeny because Sky and Scroll, they managed to avoid that off-spawn situation we saw versus Ping and Ghost. And we'll talk about what happened afterwards because Takata talked me through this.
It was scary. It got me nervous. I was not fully expecting this, but in the back of my mind, I kind of was. Okay, the issue is from this off spawn, they did come out on top. Shark and Teeny didn't get a big game, so it hasn't changed too much. But Mini, I am scared for what's to come.
Well, that's the thing. These guys got contested off spawn. Of course, all that off spawn practice last night would have paid off for them. Not that they necessarily need it. They're so good off spawn anyway. But really weird, actually, because they went down then, of course, what was it, like 30 seconds, something like that, to Surge, which we haven't seen them but get hit by Surge at all throughout this entire weekend until that very last game. And the reason that's confusing is, like, you got all that damage off spawn. You, of course, won the off spawn battle. Why not just play exactly the same way with that extra bonus of Surge? Not too sure exactly what went wrong for them, but they just couldn't handle it. So the first real time that, even though they had a bad game yesterday, the first time when they've had a really bad game in this entire weekend.
Mini, is that just like a net Surge issue with one of them going down?
Potentially a net Surge issue, potentially the fact the zone was really far, of course, as well, set them back a little bit from their early game. They couldn't quite loot as quickly as they would, but a little bit concerning for them because, of course, they did win that off spawn. It did throw them off massively throughout the rest of the game, potentially as well. So a little bit concerning for these guys, but of course, it's Sky Scroll.
Yeah, it was an 8-point game for Sky and Scroll. Yesterday, their lowest game was 19th, today 32nd. Shark and Teeny, this was a massive opportunity for them to potentially take the lead for the first time. Instead, they had to settle for just outside the top 10 mini-minor. If I was them, I'd be kicking myself.
Ah, such an opportunity missed, realistically. They needed another one of those big games, which is exactly what they've been having all day. It's their first bad game of the day, realistically, as well. And there was a couple of moments here. They were looking for a lot of that damage. They found it. Things were looking okay. They needed a refresh. Then Teeny got it to Carter, had that chug jug as well. I think it was sort of one of these moments here when they needed that refresh. And they just about almost did enough. And it was this one right here, wasn't it, where they got that elimination. Everything was looking great. You think this is the catalyst for their game. And it almost started to crumble from here. They were late to every rotate, couldn't get the health. Chart went down here and it all sort of fall apart.
Yeah, it wasn't even a terrible match. Like 11th place with 5 eliminations. That's a pretty good match, but they needed it to be a very big one. As you can see, the gap from first to second is still quite strong.
Is it odd, though, that Teeny left Shark behind there rather than trying to help him out with a heal there?
No, I mean, they were both on the wall. It was just a bit of unfortunate events prior to that that kind of led to them going down.
Well, we can see that after that victory royale, Focus and Thomas have climbed up to 3rd place. And if we take a look, Dharm and Demas, after that monster game from Darn, they have gone into the top 10, I think, for the first time this weekend because they were nearly out of the top 20 before the game mini-minor. Fantastic performance from this in-game leader.
Yeah, really struggle yesterday, I suppose, in those sort of off-spawn battles. They had a few really bad games. Today, they've really started to come alive again as well. And it seems to me it's very similar to sort of the Pablo Chino situation, where when they do make it to these end games, they're looking so strong. Dharm here, unbelievable solo clutch himself, getting all these incredible frags, getting 2nd place there at the end. But it's like, imagine if these guys could make it consistently as well to the end game. You never know what could have happened.
Oh my god, yeah, I was looking at the leaderboard and I was like, oh, they had 9 eliminations. Okay, no, Darn had 9 eliminations. Looking like he completely woke up. If he had more HP and shield, maybe the 1v2 could have been completed. But either way, happy for Thomas and Focus for taking that game home.
I think that Dharm and Demas are very much about confidence, and I think they need those big moments in order to gain that momentum and carry that forward. And I think having seen Dharm do that, and to do that as a solo for a considerable amount of time, to pick up all those eliminations, I think that's going to be really motivating them going to the next 2 games. So let's keep our eyes on them. Let's take a look at the second page, because we have so many duos who've already qualified within the top 18. It's only Size and Scary who are currently outside of it, which means for all the duos on this page, mini-minor, it's very exciting. I mean, Savage and Truly, they're currently on the line for qualification just outside it right now. And Chap and Flixie, they have already qualified, but it's great to see them having a resurgence in their performance.
Yeah, I remember we looked at the second page going into the last game, and it was only a 30-point difference between 11 and 20th. Now that's more like 90-point difference, which is absolutely crazy to see when you look at the difference in it now. So that gap is widening between this page of the leaderboard. So it's even more important now for the teams like Mr. Savage and Truly, for teams like Cringe and Volker, who are just outside of it, to really now make the most of these last two games. Because if they want to find themselves at the globals, this is when it really counts here for them.
Very quickly, guys, can I ask you about Vico and Malabuka? Because this is our reigning Summit Championship duo, and yet we're not really seeing that concrete of a game plan from them, I feel like, Takata. We're seeing them jumping all over the lobby, just trying to find their footing and not really finding what they need to get the job done.
Early game struggles is what we're seeing in the most recent matches. 45th, 42nd. Yesterday, they were getting closer to the end games, but overall this weekend, it's not really what we would expect from, being Summit champions.
Well, you know what? We know they come alive on LAN, and we know that they've already qualified for the Global Championships, but not all of our duos tonight have. So these two games that are coming up mean everything. Let's get into game 11.
Who is it gonna be securing their spot at the Global Championships, representing themselves, representing Europe against the rest of the world, Taco?
Well, one thing's for sure, Liv. I wanted to actually address the elephant in the room because we saw Sky Scroll get contested off spawn, and those guys are they're definitely leading the charge in terms of leaderboard, but there are just so many teams that could potentially look to try and switch that up, maybe help out Sharkatini. Hard to say, but I know one thing's for sure. Game 11 underway.
Once more, we will have our eyes peeled here at Frosted Flats. Will Sky and Scroll be gliding in
someone
alone, or will
tried
there
to
be other
park
duos
it
here
and
to
oh
spoil
no.
the party?
Yep.
Right now, we see Sky, we see Scroll, we see Ping, we see Ghost, and there's even more names added to the party this time around, Taco.
It's just very interesting strategies from these teams that are not near that section of the leaderboard for consistency, but finding it out amongst each other now. In fact, might have even been able to give a helping hand for Sky and Scroll. It's two separate duos with very early departures. Sky, 2 eliminations. And a little bit of surge damage, only this time they didn't have to take any in return.
Yeah, and so now we might get to see the opposite of what this off-spawn can look like for them, where it spirals into a very successful game. They will deal with the off-spawn disturbance swiftly. And unfortunately for those two teams, not much they can do to affect our Major 1 champs, both of those teams in the bottom half of the leaderboard, 46th and 47th respectively. And more than likely now, no chance of qualifying for the Global Championships. Across the lobby, we see a lot of our different teams who still are within a shot when it comes to qualifying for the Global Championship. Of course, the biggest fan favorite, Mr. Savage, the one everybody wants to see make it. And here in game 11, starts off as a solo, needing to pick Truly back up.
That's the problem, right? Bimbo and Radeon just having Savage on the run currently. He's gonna have to spend so much more time just hiding out before he can realistically try and go for any sort of reboot options. And that setback, when today has just been a series of setbacks for Savage and Truly. It started off the day around that 10th place position on the leaderboard, and with every single match that goes by, find themselves sinking 1, 2 placements ever lower. Meanwhile, competition like Pink and Haris trying to do what they can. They've had some fluctuations, but still ultimately find themselves just on the cusp. They need big performances here. And an early game, surprise, off-spawn contention aside, even if that goes your way, there's just so much more of the game left to play and contend with, and that's really where a lot of the issues have been popping up for these teams because Surge has just been all over the place for a lot of these duos.
Yeah, it's been a very difficult final for plenty of these teams, but plenty of lessons to be taken moving forward. It's been weird because I think obviously where our focus is on the excellence and the honestly just unbelievable levels of consistency from Sky and Scroll. A lot of these different teams have showed in here, games here and there that they still have plenty to offer when it comes to competing with the best of them in EU. But the reality is, as long as Sky and Scroll exist, you're gonna have to be able to do it consistently if you have any hope. Rax and Janice sitting 14th coming into this game, and they're a duo that many will be hoping can do enough just to hold on and get the job done.
It's been promising at times for Rax and Yanis, but obviously Yanis sort of investing into the Fortnite future here alongside of Rax, and they're trying to gauge whether or not they can continue just building up on their current placement.
And Janice is someone who has obviously a very storied past. One of the all-time greats here in the EU, many different FNCS championships in multiple modes. One of the few players to win in trios, duos, and a solo. But also a player who is known for his ability to pick out some of the best talents. Many people might have forgotten. Janice was one of the first people to really give Pixius opportunity to showcase what he could do at LAN. And now looking to do the same here for the young, talented Rax.
This is getting weird now at Frosted Flats. Shark and Teeny have gone a long ways from Calamari Canyon, but first we'll have to deal with Godoy and Polo. Teeny, Shark tag team effort has led to one elimination so far, but Sky and Scroll not too far away. Shark trying to see if he can still be hot in pursuit here to take down Polo. They want to make sure
Still secret and one way or watch right now.
when trying to deal with the likes of Sky and Scroll, but the fact of the matter is, if they were sneaking about here, trying to get a surprise play,
I'm about to feel that
Godoy and Polo have completely ruined it.
Shot
Sky and
coming
Scroll
now.
definitely going to be on red alert here. And I was going to ask you earlier on when we first checked in with Shark and Teeny 11, was it a missed opportunity
Who was it up
for
in?
these
Yes.
two to not initially go for that immediate off-spawn fight? But seems like that question's been answered because they've opted to still take the matter into their own hands. They are diving in against Scroll. And Shark trying to be one of the first break into the box here. Scroll just so weak, he needs some backup, but Sky a little bit stuck here. They're trying to work their way up, but Scroll, he's gonna need some help here.
This is monumental. Shark and Teeny, they lost in the final 2v2 a couple games ago, and they've decided they don't want to lose anymore. They're taking the fight to Sky and Scroll, and they know it's them. You can't miss them. This base at Frosted Flats is a big sign, a big flag to say, hey, it's us. And Shark and Teeny, they know they can't maybe play as perfect Fortnite as Sky and Scroll do, but what they certainly can is beat them in a 2v2 box fight, and that is where the urgency comes from. Sky and Scroll will look to create some space, and they'll look to separate, stop a fight from breaking out. But even if Teeny and Shark don't quite get the damage, don't quite get the limbs tackle, you could argue the damage has maybe been done. Think about all the materials Sky and Scroll have had to invest in this one to stay up. Think about the timing and the opportunity lost when it comes to surge damage. This right here could just be enough to rock the boat and give Shark and Teeny that opening that they need.
Also thinking about how many times have we seen Sky and Scroll just already rotated into the perfect position when we approach those endgame circumstances, but with Shark and Teeny here, that's just not going to be an option. They are going to have to deal with these two one way or another, And the conclusion might not be one that they're hoping for, but for Shark and Teeny, they know exactly what is at stake. This would be the game to turn things around. If they are able to convert this fight into a pair of eliminations on Sky and Scroll, and then potentially even look for a solid endgame performance, they're gonna need the victory roll after the fact. It starts with taking out Sky and Scroll. It continues with Shark and Teeny, then having to contend with the rest of the lobby.
In Major 1, Chino and Pablo chose game number 11 as their opportunity to strike. And here in Major 2, Shark and Teeny do the same. They realize that they need the extra game buffer to give themselves the best chance.
Yeah, I did Sky.
But it's not going to be easy.
So
Sky and Scroll never make
enough
things easy.
damage.
And so the stalemate will
That
continue.
if that kills Sky and
Will
Stowe,
they get impatient and
still
leave?
still
Or will
nothing
somebody
because
make a
both
mistake
team.
that cost their duo
At
the
least
CS
Stowe
title?
love you now.
This is really starting to look like a battle of attrition, though. When you think about it, Sky, Scroll, they haven't necessarily had the time that they would have preferred to really farm up the material count, and it's the same position for Shark and Teeny because they had to get a move on. They had to hustle.
Okay,
to
this
be in
sounds
this position in the
fucking
first
fake.
place to
No
challenge
way.
Sky and Scroll.
No.
And now
But
the rest
not-
of the lobby also closing in. More teams being drawn to this position because of the way that the zone is pooling. Frosted Flats smack dab in the center of it all. Sky, Scroll, they want to separate, but Shark and Teeny, they don't want to permit. And instead, it's going to be Shark and Teeny creating a little bit more distance than what they bargained for. Potentially even Teeny trying to go for a bit of a fake out here, because now he's going to reunite one more time alongside Shark and just continue to try and hold out, try and find the opening angles that will net them an advantage against the likes of Sky and Scroll. These two, they've realized it's not going to be an option.
What a great overdrive nade from Scroll. Completely fakes Teeny out. And they take enough damage to where they realize if there's any hope for them in this game, they need to dip out and recover this game. Again, when we talk about Sky and Scroll doing things and playing things perfectly, that was the best play they could have made. Psychologically, it just puts the pressure once again on Shark and Teeny, and now
Yep, Sky
their
is
game
still
spiraling
fucked up.
out of control. The investment
Wow.
has not paid
I
its
mean,
dividends.
Sat.
Shark and Teeny now on bare
Sat and
bones.
Teeny fuck up.
And what was a play that was started with the intentioning of ending the run of Sky and Scroll might just be what ends the run of Teeny and Shark here.
To make matters worse still, it's Godoy and Polo of all teams that are now circling back. We saw what Shark and Teeny had started with those two. They had forced Godoy out of the vicinity, and yet now they're a little bit stuck in the thick of it. They're not really able to find a way to squeeze themselves out of here, and they need material desperately. It might even be a fight that they're forced to take despite being on fumes here. The options are just so limited right now in comparison to Sky and Scroll, who have just managed to evade all of that chaos because of holding off Shark and Teeny for as long as they did. You have to respect the gall there, though, from Shark and Teeny, though. They made the attempt.
Absolutely, props to them. At every opportunity, Tackle, we've tried to almost write them off and say, look, Sky and Scroll have got the win. FNCS is over. Let's focus on the global qualified team. Shark and Teeny say, no, we ain't done fighting. And even if it hasn't paid off, like you said, you have to give them props for the attempt. And one thing I think we can probably say with some confidence is that they won't just go down and roll over. They will keep kicking and keep making a fuss until Sky and Scroll are forced to do something about it. But things now cooling off between the two, Teeny and Shark. When you take away the plays that they made and the context of them trying to take down the team in their way for an FNCS, when you take that all away and just look at their situation right now in this game, Taco, it looks horrible. 3 builds for Teeny, not much more for Shark. and way down below on Surge.
Their loadouts just look like a duo that has been playing reboot after reboot so far in Game 11, and yet that's just not the case. But ultimately, Shark and Teeny, still hard to rule them out. We know just how quickly they can turn a fight into their favor. But for Sky and Skrull, potentially even looking on some of the action that's about to ensue here, Shark, Teeny, their tourney standings on the line here. If they go down before placement really even begins to factor in, Sky and Skrull are going to be left largely uncontested. They very likely just see themselves as tournament winners here, but Shark, Teeny desperately trying to see whether or not they can bring down Pixie, Swizzy, both of them just narrowly managing to skirt around, but they run directly into where Dinas is at, and now Teeny, Shark trying to come alive here, but they found themselves a bit pincered now. Teeny has fallen, Surge ticking away at what HP is left here, and Shark forced to fall back, but 519 below. There's only so much left to be done in this type of circumstance, and for Shark, it's just too tall of a task, too big of an ask even, for him to seriously try and overcome it. Damage options just drawing further and further away from him. Swizzy and Pixie, they've managed to evade Shark and Teeny, but for Sky and Skrull, there is no one left in sight to catch them.
Wow. The game's not even done, Taco, but what a game so far. I mean, this is what it's all about. Sky and Skrull now have the opportunity to really try and shut Shark and Teeny up for goods. I think the funny thing about this game becomes no matter what Sky and Skrull do here, they have to know. Next game, Frosted Flat is not safe. No, they better have someone prepping another drop spot for them for the final game. They should not go anywhere near that spot. But let's see what they cook up here in game number 11. Let's see if they can add to their lead and mitigate any potential game 12 off-spawn shenanigans. Of course, they also have had quite a tough time trying to make up for the lost time after that Shark and Teeny stalemate. But they've done a better job of recovering the game here, Taco.
And you know, for as heartbreaking as that defeat was for Sky and Skrull at Summit, can't help but think that that might have just been the missing piece for those two. The level up that they have experienced from having been in that type of position, and now realizing just how they can match up to the pressure here in the Major 2 Grand Finals. But there are other teams still looking for other prizes, one of them being that Global's position. And for Truly and Savage, they have really had to try and dig their way out of the trenches here right now. Bimbo and Radion just hounding them for the most part, but Savage and Truly still getting just enough damage done, but they're going to need so much more than that. They want to stay in contention. 73 below now. Savage forced to pause, forced to utilize some of their healing resources. Got to get his shield back up to a level where he won't be immediately dropped on their next rotation, but Truly knows their options are so limited. They try to catch off guard Cammy and Hardy, but it's going to be no use. Cammy, Hardy immediately separate, and now Truly desperately trying to find any form of damage. Savage has already fallen though. And Truly, he has to get an elimination.
Truly, he's done so well as a solo throughout this season, but unfortunately, will meet his end.
Yeah.
And that puts so much pressure on that final game now for that duo. But there are plenty other duos in a similar boat. Pink and Haris, they will not be fearful as they have such a big opportunity in this final game, or these final 2 games here, to make something happen. Jewel needs to do his best because he currently sits in a global spot and he doesn't want to jeopardize that. as a solo, can't make it work.
Forcefully ejected from the lobby, but still has game 12 to work with to try and defend that position on the leaderboard. Velo and Zynox, another team in a similar position. Only they are running very low on their build count. We saw Rax and Yanis just moments ago holding down a little bit of a low ground position. Now they've gone all the way up. Big point of elevation here. Solid material counts too. The loadouts definitely looking fairly healthy in comparison to a lot of the other teams that we've hovered over. But for Sky and Scroll, every single time they secure an elimination, Shark and Teeny, you'd imagine their stomachs just gutted feelings because they are only continuing to create an even bigger gap. They are looking for being the back-to-back Axe of Champion wielders, and they might just do it depending on how this game 11 plays out for them. For right here, right now, Cringe, Volko doing everything they can to keep just breaking through some of these more congested areas. Venus and Fnatic, they won't be able to overcome the wall that is Sky and Scroll. Perez dropped by Nathan. And even as a solo, it doesn't make a difference because every single one of these players looking for that separating moment that give them every single bit of placement points, every single bit of elimination points. Velo and Zynox diving right in, but bit off a little bit more than they could chew here. Wi-Fi and Boris were ready to punch back.
Yeah, that leaves Velo in such a tough spot. With all the focus on the first and how impressive they've been, so many of our teams fighting for globals, having struggles, and so many of those teams in the bubble might just be able to make it first as we go into this final game. Here in this end game though, Sky and Scroll are still looking for that win condition. They want to add to the tally. They want to make it for another win.
And they've already got that front side low control. Rax, Yanis, they might be in a position where they're going to look to drop again, but from where we last saw Sky and Scroll at, and the way that this elevation has shifted, they are just looking to pick apart any sort of stragglers that come anywhere near their turf here. Velo still trying to do what he can to wrap around. Has gone unsighted for the time being, but Sky and Scroll, it feels like they might be doing the victory lap early here in game 11. Because one more elimination onto Yanis. 4 already. Ample amounts of material now being picked up here. The medkits going to certainly help out aplenty. Sky, Scroll now looking to try and reunite. Velo, Tango, and Boris and Wi-Fi, but they'll find yet another elimination there. Sky and Scroll though looking back. Hari, Cammy trying to make a resurgence. Today has not been theirs for the taking, but they're still looking to see whether or not game 11 could possibly go in their favor.
How do they keep doing it? Scroll should have been taken out ages ago, but it leaves Sky as a solo to continue to add points to the tally. And he has done it so many times here in this major for this duo. Whether it's major 1, Sky clutching up, major 2,
So
Sky
that
will do it
that
again.
team fucking
So
super,
many
man.
valuable points on the board. But for Hutty and Fishy, this is a much needed opportunity at a win. But they have to be careful because Hari will never make it easy. The Storm will get the job done. Hutty and Fishy take game number 11.
It's a duo that we haven't had much opportunity to talk about throughout the course of this weekend so far, but coming alive in the final hour, better late than never after all. Wouldn't you say, Frankie?
Absolutely. Better late than never, but will it make much of a dent in the leaderboard? I am not so sure, but congratulations to Hutty and Fishy for claiming that victory royale. However, we have to admit that all eyes were on the low ground because we wanted to see if Sky and Scroll could do it yet again. They could have had a catastrophic early game, but they managed to come through again. We'll be talking in detail about their game after the break. But before then, let's talk about Hutty and Fishy. Takata, this is a team that's had many lows this weekend, so it's great to see them on a high.
Yeah, I'm trying to even find where they were. There's 36th place going into this match. Just not a good weekend coming from these two. They were surprise contested last minute day 1. They thought they were going to have Wonky on con, and it has just been downhill since then, Mini. But now, a little bit of an uphill.
Yeah, it's nice to see, of course. I think we expected bigger things from this weekend. The storyline that we were sort of teeing up is like, no more Sharkantini, now the sky's unfortunately, the sky was quite low for these guys. Over the course of the weekend. Just hasn't quite been their time. Hutzy yesterday posted on socials, he just said, count me out. So he wasn't feeling confident after yesterday, but it's actually nice to see that confidence maybe being instilled in them. I'm interested to see actually where it puts them on the leaderboard. Of course, you know, their goal, of course, would be to qualify for the Global Championships. Maybe they need another big game like this in the very last one to actually make that happen. But they've given themselves the hope, which is the most important thing. They've given themselves something to latch onto here in this last game, because without that game, things were looking very dire indeed for them this weekend.
There's the FNCS Global's last chance qualifier that's coming up on August 14th. So for any duos who have counted themselves out, they don't have to count themselves out of Globals yet, but we'll be talking about who looks likely to make it to Belgium after the break.